So we are living now at a hinge point in the history of Earth society, which is that probably within the next 50 years or so, we will have good evidence for life on another planet. Now, I say probably, it's not like a sure thing, but with the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, have been following, we're finally getting the ability to characterize exoplanet atmospheres with a fair degree of exactness. We're already detecting carbon dioxide in exoplanet atmospheres many light years away. With the next generation of space telescopes, things like the LUVOIR, going to be launched in a decade or two, we're going to be able to spot biosignatures, combinations of oxygen and methane, other kind of unstable combinations in planetary atmospheres. So we're probably going to know, if there is life to be found out there, that there is life and where it is. And this confronts us with a choice. How are we going to interact with this life? What are we going to do with this life? What is our attitude going to be toward this life? And those are questions that science, as important as it is for us actually figuring out whether this stuff is there and where it is, can't necessarily help us answer. These are ethical questions. These are ethical questions, and they're questions about the values that are going to dictate the next phase of space exploration. These ethical questions and these questions about values are being answered for us by industry speculators, by people engaged in a kind of a gold rush in outer space. This is already happening. People are trying to extract water from the moon, mine asteroids. We've seen that the rush to take advantage of space as a resource has led to the crowding, possibly the catastrophic crowding of low Earth orbit with satellites and such things as that. So we see that these decisions are being made for us. It seems like they're decisions in which we all have an interest. And these are decisions that we should be thinking about together, which is what we've been doing in our astrobiology and ethics reading and discussion group. We do this in a kind of humanities way. We sit around and we talk things over. And by we here, I mean people from all the divisions of the university. Arts, sciences, social sciences, and the humanities. We all have our own perspective on these issues, and we all have our own contributions to make to these discussions about what should be happening in the future and what our approach should be to life beyond Earth. And indeed to what our ethics should be in searching for life beyond Earth. A lot of you may have heard about the controversy surrounding the TMT telescope on Mauna Kea in Hawaii. This is also an issue that we've talked about in the reading group. What we're trying to do is be conscientious about values. Think about the values that we take into space and that govern our encounter with other forms of life. Are you thinking about, is knowledge the highest value? Is profit the highest value? Or do we want to think in terms of justice or in terms of something that we haven't even invented yet? Are we discovering new values? Are we making a new ethics for outer space? These are all questions that we're asking in this reading group. And we ask them, as I said, by discussing texts, by talking about different kinds of texts. We talk about fiction. Oh, that's an important warning. Don't sleepwalk into the future. There we go. We talk about fiction, right? Stories are a great way to think about the way that values could play themselves out in the future, speculative fiction. But they're also great for a kind of perspective flip, because sometimes, if you have read Octavia Butler's Dawn, you know what I'm talking about. They can help us see ourselves as the contacted aliens and think about the ethics of the encounter from that side. But you don't have to go as far as fiction. You know, we also think about history, and we think about the history of colonial encounters that have happened on Earth. And we think that these encounters have in general gone pretty badly and are not a good model for the way we want to proceed in space. You know, people talk about space as a kind of a frontier. We think there's something a little bit poisonous in that language, something that leads us to see it again, whether it's inhabited or not, as a resource to be exploited and a resource to be mined. So these are the kinds of questions about values that we're asking ourselves. And you can probably see from the presentation that these questions can also point us to problematic behaviors on Earth, problems in history. Our theory is basically that we can come back from space to Earth, and the idea is basically that you don't want to do on Earth what you wouldn't want to do in space. Thank you for your time.